Hello and welcome everybody to the EUSCC for year 10. This is week 1 of phase 1, game number 1 for both of these two teams. My name is Judas Priestley, joined today by Alpha Jackal and AJ. Today we are bringing everyone the Solar Scarabs versus the Olympus Bolts. Now, those names might sound familiar, but the player changes are completely different. And do you think these new players having these heavy titles of pro leagues past might be carrying some weight for them?
I don't think they will. I think they're just going to come in here as consummate semi-professionals should, which is just wanting to play the game and getting on with it, wanting to try and get a quick 2-0 over their opponents. Name be damned.
Well, name be damned, but we will have to find out how these players put it all together, of course. Now, coming into this part of year 10, of course, this is the 10.3 patch that we'll be playing on today. So we're going to have to see a little bit of an adjustment in the picks and bans as we head on in. Now, AJ, we had some time with this patch, of course, before all the changes came through. What do you think the main stars of this show will be? Who will be the gods to look out for here?
Well, the second the 10.3 patch hit and Anubis can walk around with as one, I instantly went, that is broken. He is going to be picked non-stop.
Yep.
Not been seeing as much play as I thought he would. He's been picked once, maybe twice in the SPL so far, but has made an absolute splash when he has been picked. So maybe we'll see him as well. Aphrodite has been a constant top pick, top ban. Guan Yu has been up there as well. So it's still just sort of the same suspects that you'll see in the SPL.
Same suspects, and of course, coming in for this patch was the first time that Matikoras was available for play. So, expecting to possibly see that. We've seen a bit of it in the mid lane. Actually, saw it in both of the EU SCC games yesterday. So, I wouldn't be too surprised to see that coming through. But what are your thoughts on Matikoras, AJ? Is this a god that we should watch out for? Or are they sort of blending into the mix?
I'd say right now they sit in sort of like that tier 2 ADC. So I think top of the line right now you'd have Ishtar and Kernanos still, I think in 10.4. Yep. You'd then have Matikoras swapping plates with Kernanos as sort of the top dogs. He brings a fair bit of burst to the table. If you imagine sort of the Ulla players of old, where they just wait for their abilities to come up and then poke you out, then focus on the wave afterwards, he has that same similar play style where he can punish you for over-aggression. They can also punish you for just sitting back playing too far.
Yep, sitting back playing too far, which seems to not be how these two teams want to play, because looking at the bans coming through, Yamoja, Terra, Hercules, and Aphrodite, all gods we were fully expecting to come through. Hell can just join into that list as well. But this does leave a whole lot of gods open. What would, if you're the Bolts right now, what are you looking to take as your high priority pick?
Like I said, Anubis is what I'll be looking for, but I'm not a pro player still. What we've seen so far, I mean, Najjar has been a priority pick and been banned up a fair bit, so both these players I know have Najjar in their wheelhouse. Would imagine that there's going to be a highly contested pick up early on. Ishtar still remains up there, Kernanos still remains up there. So any of those gods I wouldn't be surprised to see as a top pick.
Well, we'll have to see. There's a lot open, of course. Kern, Ishtar, like you mentioned. Also a few mages notable, but Thor being hovered, not too surprising if we do see this god locked in, because, I mean, with the new larger map for year 10, we've seen a lot of Thor, mainly a lot of semi-globals as well, just being able to attack from all angles and really close the distance very, very quickly. Now, Thor, pretty standard pickup, AJ, but let's just hit you with it. If you're picking Thor this early, is that definitely for the jungle, or would you consider putting it in the solo lane?
I think once you have your top pick, you are 90% certain exactly where it's going to go if it's a flexible pick. You may, at pick 4 or 5, go, actually, it's better in the solo lane, let's put it in the solo lane. But there's no reason to not pick one of the best jungle gods and place him in the jungle.
Ooh, I saw an excited look in your eyes there, AJ.
Very excited, yes.
We've got an Anubis hover, it's just a hover. Guan Yu is what's locked in, and Guan Yu, of course, like you mentioned, very, very potent god at the moment. Does that solo lane so well. It's always these productions, man. They get in our heads. They just get ahead of the game, and they really want to trap us. But Ishtar Guan Yu ends up coming through. Is Ishtar Guan Yu about as equal of a top 2 as Thor is as a top 1? Would you say?
I would say Guan Yu probably is the top tier solo laner right now, the premier one. He's got incredible push, where he's been given an extra stack of his passive in terms of getting more protections, reducing yours a little bit more. His poke is a lot more deadly. he reduces cooldowns for your entire team, so he's a lot more of a team-oriented pick rather than a backline diver like he used to be.
Yes.
He just got buffs all around the board for a very minimal loss.
Yep, very minimal loss, but speaking of a loss, the Solar Scarab of Khepri ends up going to the Bolts instead of the Solar Scarabs. Maybe a little bit of mental mind games coming out from the Bolts, really trying to get ahead, taking away your mascot. But I'm not sure we'll be seeing a Zeus coming out from the Solar Scarab, so maybe a little bit of that will be not seen just yet. But Aokwang coming through. Aokwang all the way down to the 3rd pick. I guess they really wanted to lock the jungle before it gets banned away, but picking a jungle so early, both junglers for both teams, that's somewhat of a rare sight at the moment.
I think it's still just a remnant of the 10-1, 10-2 patch that these players are most likely still feeling the meta from.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think picking up your junglers is still a fantastic option early, given that they're good momentum-based sets play style from Hedgehog and Worst Turtle. This Aokwang is definitely a reactionary pick to that Khepri. Wants to be able to go through that revive as an execute. Don't want that to be banned away, and don't want to leave them with having to go into a Thanatos or an Achilles jungle. Yeah,
it's always nice when you can get one of these executes to counter Khepri, but not so nice when you're forced to maybe pick one you wouldn't have ideally chosen. So Aokwang right now has been very strong without a Khepri on the opposing side, so picking it while there is a Khepri, just got that little bit of an added bonus. But bans coming through, mid lane focused bans from the Solar Scarabs, a Sobek ban from the Bolts, not something I was quite expecting. I guess, it's got its merits, does Sobek, similarly to Athena. Athena's maybe just a little bit better, but one got a wide-eyeing over here is Maui. Wide open for the Solar Scarabs. I'm surprised that one wasn't banned away.
But maybe it's just one of the picks that they want them to pick instead. I mean, you've seen it before time and time again in SMITE. When there's a top pick that potentially could be production, I swear to God. When there's a top pick, top ban across the meta, sometimes teams will let it through because they know A, the opposition won't have much practice on it, or B, that that they've got a good counter to it.
Right, yeah. Now Baron Samedi locked in. Baron having a bit of a shining point at the moment, has not been too relevant recently. Had a bit of a lull period at the end of Season 9. Didn't show up at Worlds, I don't believe. But now coming through 10, we've seen a little bit of it. Of course, you're never getting Afro. You're rarely getting Hell. In fact, there's only a few players picking Hell. Your Moja's a little bit difficult, but Baron Samedi does pretty much all that they do, and it's a little bit easier to play.
Yeah, I think he's one of the top support picks right now. I think him alongside Eset sit alongside sort of like Aphrodite is one of those flex picks that you can do as a mage going into a support role. Nox obviously fits that role as well, but with Baron and Eset, you're sort of picking them as more reactionary, lower tier picks, because they do have their counters, they do have their downsides. Baron, obvious one is his lack of mobility, has to use his consigned spirits to be able to get some extra movement speed, and he's going to need that against this Nemesis and Morgan Le Fay, who's going to be able to chase him down very quickly.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to be run down as a Baron Samedi, but Amusin Carb, another one of those gods that could potentially be run down, but of course with the new changes to his hives, does heal a little bit differently, and actually still gets that big movement speed. So we see both drafts coming all the way through. You have to tip your hat to one of them. Which side are you drafting for here?
Well, I think you called it from the 90-10 at the beginning that Thor was going to go to the solo lane, so congratulations on that one. I think the Solar Scarabs have won this draft. I think getting the Guanyu in the solo lanes really helped them. The Baron Samedi support gives them pressure early on. 2 Hunters, always deadly to face in the late game. And the Bolts just really lack that control in team fights, I feel.
Well, we'll have to see if they can actually put it together and make it work. We're going to get into game in a moment, but like you said, the control for the Bolts is just not really there. They've got a lot of potential, instant fights, right? Like they could probably just burn through a team really, really quickly if they get the chance to. But, when you're sort of relying on just instantly killing the enemy team, it doesn't very often go in your favor that way.
No, it doesn't. It's a good strategy to have in the early game whilst you're roaming around the jungle. They're not really expecting you to be around certain corners, which is why we do see pick comps work well in the early game. when it gets to late game and you're roaming as a 3v3 or even a 5 versus 5, those pick comps wane a little bit. Yes, they can sort of start off fights, maybe getting one of the gods off the table at the very beginning of the fight, but they expend so much resources in doing so that the opposition just starts to run them down from fights thereafter, or just backs off and takes an objective 4 versus 5.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot of weaknesses when you play this style. Like, it can be done, though. You know, if you're seeing this team coming through, of course, it's week 1. Maybe some of these teams are not quite as tight-knit as you would have expected. Or at least expect them to get to be. So it's sometimes just causing a bit of chaos, right? You know, you're dealing with a nemesis that's diving you, Morgan Le Fay, fear hits you, and then all of a sudden Thor comes from the solo lane and lands on you. You know, when you start getting these real cluttered communications, these real chaotic fights, that can be where the sort of strength of these teams go. So when we get through it, you know, when we all comes down to it, you might find that with both these sides, really get head on, like you said, around the Fire Giant, etc., around the Gold Fury, even just the Pyromancer, even just at Phoenix and Tower Sieges, really might find that this pick comp might struggle. But is either side, like you've said in the early game, that the strategy of, you know, this pick composition that the Bolts have gone for, you said early on that might be where it's strongest, but do you expect them to be particularly stronger than the other side, or do the other side have a reasonably good early game of their own?
I think they have a reasonably great early game. Like I mentioned, they're going to have pressure in the dual lane thanks to the Baron Samedi. Over in the solo lane, Guan Yu is going to get the pressure over Thor unless there's a catastrophic misplay or there's going to be a Nemesis gank early on. But the jungle matchup is definitely where you want to watch out for things in this game. The Nemesis versus the Ao Kuang. Typically, when you have picked Ao Kuang in the past, Nemesis has been the counter to the 1 versus 1 scenario. But in the team fights, both of them have wildly different impacts, and it's going to be interesting to see which one just out-trumps the other.
Well, we've been patient, but now we will get on in to this first match to see exactly how these sides will square on up against each other. Now, like you said, there probably won't be any surprises coming through, as we will, in fact, see Thor in that solo lane. But is there anything, you know, outstanding to you now? Like both sides want to get ready. Do you expect this jungle the jungle of the Olympus Bolts to just want to get over to one of these lanes early on?
I think what Hedgehog is going to do is just power farm until he hits level 5. Because as a Nemesis, your gank potential skyrockets once you hit level 5. You need to be able to have that long range, slow prot shred. You're speed boosting yourself. It's just a necessary tool to be able to function as this god.
We're seeing a bit of a different start coming out from the Bolts here. Not a usual jungle start by any means. Actually, Hedgehog and Sega, they're taking the blue and speed buff. Saipo and Hedgehog meet up with the red buff. It seems to be about the same, maybe just a different route to the same end goal. But both sides squaring up in the middle lane with all the farm cleared, but I mean, both sides leaving their speed buffs as, well, Worst Turtle putting out tons of damage in the mid lane early.
Yeah, that's what you can do as an Ao Kuang, and don't forget you also have the AMC providing the bees, just spreading everywhere. It's a very annoying lane to face against because you try and fight up against the Ao Kuang because you know you can try and do so, and then the AMC just pokes you with so much damage.
Of course, AMC having the honey to slow you down as well, and slows in the early game are so impactful. Just that those little edges can make all the difference, especially when most of the damage is auto-attack based. Wow, coming through with the water illusion. There's the bees! The bees keep going! The bees will finish off iPort, and that's a quick first blood for the Solar Scarabs.
I did not expect the bees to do that much damage in the early game. I think that was Bluestone that did the majority of that damage there to be able to get that tick down, but a very aggressive play there from Hedgehog. Actually baits iPort back into the fight where he doesn't really want to be. I mean, look, he has no consumables still. He's been focused hard by this jungle mid lane combo from the Solar Scarabs, and this paid off.
Yeah, mid lane pressure when you don't have any potions like that. I think that's the nature of this start that we see that iPort has gone for. You don't tend to have a lot of consumables to work with. You can be poked out. Now, normally it's Morgan Le Fay doing the poking and prodding, but Amazon Carb's just a bit better at that.
Yeah, I mean, AMC is the king of poke. You think of, I want to stay back out of my lane, and I'm still going to get hit by just obnoxious damage. You think AMC, 100%. But over in this dual lane, it's going exactly as you expected, as is the solo lane. both of them just being high pressure by the Solar Scarabs. And now that they have pressure in mid lane as well, they have complete control over the map.
Yeah, control everywhere. Actually already building up a 1,000 gold lead, 2.5 minutes in. And that's just by virtue of having pressure everywhere. Every single member of the Olympus Bolts has been pinned under tower in this early stage. And looks like the Solar Scarabs are going to try to turn this into a blue buff invade. Now, aware of it are the Bolts. Slicing and dicing is Hedgehog, but not successfully. Good invade from the Scarabs. Panvich going to take some damage, but already level 5. This Guan Yu, more than safe.
I'm really surprised that Panvich doesn't engage there with his cavalry charge. I mean, he is level 5 like you mentioned. Hedgehog was level 3. There's definite potential there for a chaser to kill. Ice silenced, a bit low, but not as low as Impox and Yokin.
Both dual laners of the Olympus Bolts very low, just trying to secure their purple, and Baron is one of the best at that. Just invading a purple, not even necessarily poking or damaging you, but the threat of the burst that Baron can do at this early stage, still has a lot of the mage stats as quite prominent. They still do a lot of base damage and can hit with multiple abilities at once. So a purple buff steal is always very possibly going to go in the favor of Silence on the Baron, but it is the Bolts who come away with it and sort of weathering the storm right now of this Olympus Bolts team.
Well, they have to. Like I mentioned, they've got the pressure of the side lanes. The mid lane was the one that they were trying to bank on, but First Blood goes there as well. It's a very worrying start for the composition that is the pick-based composition. I mean, they need Hedgehog down to this level 5 to start influencing the rest of the map, to start trying to go over and make some ganks. But ganking on the left-hand side is exactly what's happening to the Olympus Bolts.
Box there has to burn the Purification Bees. A lot of ultimates expended. That is both dual laners now. Hedgehog might come in with a late rotation. It looks like the Soul Scarabs maybe aware of the presence of the enemy jungler, so will back on out. So that's the first attempt on this dual lane, and they didn't really select a target there to actually prioritize.
I think the priority there was the Khepri, but whether they noticed it or not, Kepri's got the beads available as his first relic.
Yes.
It's a sensible choice to try and make sure he's not the focal point of every single gank, of every single attempted kill by the Solar Scarabs. He can then try and, escape the execute for the Alquang himself, or escape the trap coming out from Ice Silence. He definitely needs this, where he has no CC immunity built into his game.
Yeah, sometimes doesn't feel so good to have to pick a Purification Beast, but Khepri, of course, one of the largest or the widest character models in the game, does mean that you do just get hit by so much CC. It's almost impossible to juke on, so having those Purification Beasts is necessary. But a pincer maneuver coming in from Panvich and Worst Turtle with just chase Hedgehog out of their own jungle, re-engage from Worst Turtle as the dunk from Sega is not in time. Quick pick from Worst Turtle, and they might even look for some more.
No, that is definitely going to be a blue buff invade. Fantastic gank there from Worst Turtle. Just waits around the corner, waits for Hedgehog to come back in after his dashes are on cooldown, and just takes the very easy 1v1. Nemesis unable to do anything without that dash, without that reflect shield against the Alquang, and it's just with having Blink as the relic, very easy to be having a nice snack for the Alquang.
Yep, jumps in, nom 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 nom, eats up Hedgehog early on, so that's 2 kills now for the Solar Scarabs, and so you're under some more pressure from the cavalry charge. Panvich just unrelenting. I don't think he ever gets the kill there, but just putting out this pressure on a god like Thor, who can't sustain back through it, but a nice block there. Life of the party there coming from Impox, but right now Solar Scarabs just running the show.
Yeah, this is what you want from the team that has the pressure, that has the early game potential. When you have a look at their team, the AMC is going to be able to just push out that mid lane very safely. The dual lane, Ishtar, one of the best clearers in the game, although is going up against Ram, who has equal claim to that. With Guan Yu, probably the best solo lane god in the game right now. It's just all lined up where I firmly believe that Olympus Bolts will have to go back and look and say, we lost this game on draft.
Yeah, when we've discussed at length the strength of the early game of the Bolts and how they're looking for picks, that's not how it's gone. And if you're not playing your composition correctly, what are you picking it for? But a bit of a scrap in the dual lane as both sets come together. Now, both ADCs about half HP. There's only one jungler nearby, and Hedgehog looping around the long way. Probably got spotted out on a ward. Although they don't seem to be reacting to it. Nothing too much is happening just yet.
Yeah, he did get spotted out on the ward like you mentioned, but look who's coming over. Sam, the stinger just off the mark. That hits. that is probably a dead headshot because he's going to be crippled, gets pulled in by the life of the party once it comes up off of cooldown, which should be any second now. There it is. And then just a mass rotation for the double ADCs.
Mass rotation with a lot of damage coming through. 2 ADCs, like you mentioned, can do a lot of damage in a lot of speed, I guess you'd call it. They just burn through. Particularly these objectives as well. Now, of course, the Solar Scarabs haven't quite been in position to get aggressive on objectives just yet, but I mean, if it keeps going this way, you'd expect them to take them and take them quickly.
Interesting pickup by here by SAP7. He's got in SAP7. He's got in for the wing blade.
Ow.
I love this. Like, think about it. What does Nemesis bring to the table? Slow, 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 more slows, and you know what? Just a slow for good measure. Yokin wishes he had something like that right now. But that gives him immunity from the slows, so Nemesis can do nothing to this AMC.
Yeah, you don't want to be engaging, right, by tipping the scales, getting the slice and dice, but you know, if you get that first shot, whichever one it is, all of a sudden AMC's going to be speeding away, as it would do without a wing blade. But the Gold Fury now, started up by Solar Scarabs, and absolutely no contention for the Olympus Bolts, as they're just going to let this gold lead climb even further in favor of the Chaos side.
Oh, Sega. Panvich wants to chase it, but without the cavalry charge, not going to be able to go down. So Sega lives there as well. It's just gone from bad to worse here for the Olympus Bolts. Look at the gold lead. It's over 3,000, close to 4,000 gold here, 9 minutes in. You're not meant to snowball in this meta. You're not meant to snowball in this map. But there are some times where you just are able to do so because of pure dominance across the map. And this is one of those games.
We've even seen it not only in every lane, but also in the jungle. You know, we saw a headshot getting picked not far from where they're standing right now, and that was just by virtue of pressure from the solo lane. You know, Pandrich able to get ahead, get aggressive, steps on into the enemy jungle. They think it's just a blue buff invade. All of a sudden, it turns on into a kill, and then a blue buff invade. It's getting some and then taking more. Is what the Solar Scarabs have done fantastically well so far.
Yeah, they got the Gold Fury, the Pyromancer. It hasn't even spawned yet. There's going to be another minute and a half until that spawns. They have complete control of this map. It wouldn't be surprised me to see if they try and go for an early fire giant like we saw from North America yesterday.
Yeah, very early. I think it was a 15-minute fire giant last night.
It was,
and yeah, it was a crazy speed when you get to that sort of stage. And I mean, this game's looking like that. You know, we discussed the double ADC do have the potential to get aggressive like that. iPop being pushed under their tower just by virtue of Sap being there. Sap's just stepping forward, spreading those bees. And if any team's going to go for this for an early objective like that, if anyone's going to beat the record, it could very well be the Solar Scarabs team.
Well, the 3 versus 2 in mid lane, but the Olympus Bolts still not pulling the trigger at any form of engage. They're playing scared right now. They don't want to engage onto this because they know the potential burst that comes out, and the fact that they might even end up losing the 3 versus 2.
Yeah, if you lose a 3v2, then you're in just so much trouble. But
invaded again.
Yeah, it's a green buff invaded by Worst Turtle, 1 versus 3. Now it's a 4-on-4 on this left-hand side for the red squad. As they group one up to the sky, goes Jockin, but Worst Turtle's there to greet him as he lands. And takes him right back on up there, this time in the dragon's mouth. And this is, you know, like you said the word snowball. Is there anything bigger than a snowball? Because that's what's happening right now.
Snow boulder? Snow.
Yeah, bouldering.
Hey, do you know about bouldering? just tangent off the conversation massively right now. But no, Solar Scarabs, they have been very impressive so far in their first look. And having a look at these two sets of teams at the beginning of the split, before any game was played, I said Solar Scarabs should be finishing in the top 3 comfortably. Maybe even challenging for the top 2 spots. This makes me worried for every other team in the league that they may even be the best team right now. They're certainly playing with a confidence and swagger that deserves that conversation. Yeah,
playing with confidence, and as much as it's easy to say when everything you try comes off, it's easy to say, oh, well, you know, you're just having a good game. But what they're doing is very intentional. It's all very coordinated. It's all very scheduled and on cue, and everyone is on the same page. And, you know, Olympus Bolts maybe just not ready for the pace that has been set. Now, they are far from out of this game. It is quite a large lead, especially with only 4 kills on the board for the Scarabs. But they can certainly climb back on into this. But are they just waiting, I suppose, for Solar Scarabs to overstep the mark a bit?
At that point, they have to. I mean, you can't really fight and choose your engagements when you're 5,000 gold down at 12.5 minutes. You have to wait until a misstep. You have to wait until somebody's isolated by themselves, pushing up first from farm that they shouldn't really be getting, or making a rotation in the jungle, like Hedgehog was trying to do to Worst Turtle. Blink comes up in a second, gonna use it, counter Blink, and that's gonna be end of that.
I feel like that's always something we see. One jungler blinks, the other one blinks away, and it always just looks so cool because it's very, very fine margins. But Hedgehog taking the 1v1 despite the 2-level deficit. You mentioned Nemesis is very good into Aokwang directly, but pressure in the middle lane as Aokwang lurking behind. Worst Turtle smells something out, but Sega now on the rotation to this Pyro.
Yeah, there we go. Panvich coming around as well. Engagement coming here. 3-man stun to start off the fight.
3-man stun, but Panvich takes a ton of damage in the process. Now up to the sky. Go! Sega lands down on Panvich. Doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot of damage. Misses with the Berserker's Barrage by virtue of the slow. The Blades of Retribution come out. Get the cripple, get the stun. Worst Turtle to sweep up the kill. As Echrome says, that one's mine. And, well, Olympus Bolts try to make something happen.
Oh, bees?
No. They tried to make something happen, and it just didn't work out for them.
That is rough there for the Olympus Bolts. They make an aggressive play. They look for an objective. They are forced off it. What's even worse is Sega. Is that a little bit of tilt there from Sega? Trying to go in, trying to just claw something for the team, trying to kill Panvich, get themselves on the board. And is just completely unable to do so and falls down with Panvich dancing around him even. Yeah,
Panvich just happy enough to be around there, knew that they were baiting in the enemy. And unfortunately, they have fallen the Olympus Bolts. One of the best comeback mechanics we've seen are these golden chests coming up, but the Scarabs even pick them up themselves. But Hedgehog here, ready to go for the slice and dice, does not connect. Oh, rooted out in Hedgehog. I mean, it's worth the attempt at this point. There's the Scarabs blessing as they watch the entire enemy team just surround them. Worst Turtle, for some reason, decides to go for the execute, despite there not being execute range. And I think Solar Scarabs are just having a little fun now.
They were in execute range, but Hedgehog decides to utilize his beads for... He was dead there regardless.
Yeah.
Just let yourself get eaten at that point. You're wasting your beads there.
It was a bit of a waste. At least, I mean, I suppose that was there a chance to get out? Maybe the dash was coming off.
Zero chance.
But what if they had the dash, you know? Like
they stayed in the middle of 5 people. There was zero chance of escaping. AMC will chase you down with hives and wing blades. There is no escaping that man. You're at your blue buff. He is at your speed buff. He will chase you down before you even get to your tower. That's how quick he'll be able to chase you down.
Well, AMC, the new race cars, we don't see any Chronos around so much at the moment, but I mean, pressure all over the map. 3 tier 1 towers already down on the side of the Bolts. Solar Scarabs just full control everywhere. What do you do if you're the Bolts here? I feel like they've been really caught off guard by the aggression here.
I mean, it's past that 10,000 gold lead point where you can't fight into them at all now, and this is just going through the motions at this point. If you're Olympus Bolts, there is one thing you can do. F6. Just write this game off and go, it's over, it's done, go back to the drawing board and let's draft something different this next game. Because once you pass that 10,000 gold difference mark, you rely on the opposition to make a crucial, monumental mistake to be able to get back into the game.
Well, if that mistake is to come, I'll be quite glad to be here to see it, but I mean, Solar Scarabs, like you said, are just playing so clean, you know, blinking from Hedgehog. Echrome dishes out as much damage in return, and Hedgehog has to return to the tower. Now, they do keep the tower alive, so it's the small wins that the Bolts are backing on right now.
Well, tier 2 towers are what's up next for the Solar Scarabs to be able to take down. Worst Turtle going around the side looking for Yokin. Yokin's caught out, and Yokin's dead again.
Yeah, certainly it's just a matter of time, although that's a nice cripple. Keep them at bay for just a moment, but a moment is all Worst Turtle needs. Pick up another kill. It's a rampage for the Yao Kwang. 5 kills is the most in the game, but Olympus Bolt's still with that big old 0.
Yeah, I think the game is going to end there with a big fat 0 in that kill column as well. Hedgehog being chased around by a level 18 AMC. That is a fat B in the mid lane. He is fed. I mean, he does have
the man's
kills,
bumbling.
He is bumbling around the map. And he's ahead of Worst Turtle. Worst Turtle has 5 kills on his side. He has been farming up as much as possible. And He's on course to hit level 20 before 20 minutes.
That's always the biggest sign, right? If a god is getting so high level so quickly, now Impact's going to take a ton of damage. Now, you have space to get the Abduct away, but there's the life of the party coming through. The beads come out, but not enough. There is Scarab's Blessing for another little bit moment of life, but iPod being dove even further. Sap wants this. Sap's chasing for it. Does take 2 tower shots, but it's more than happy now. E-Chrome low. Hedgehog trying to sweep up that one kill, but the sustain coming out means that there is just too much healing. Hedgehog can't find it. Sega got dunks down, recognizes the situation, and retreats on back to base. At this point, the Fire Giant's a bigger threat than anyone on the bolts.
Oh, that is ouch. I mean, at this point, you know it's rough when Worst Turtle gets nothing for killing Hedgehog. He gets nothing. He doesn't get any gold, doesn't get any experience. The only thing he does is get satisfaction of killing it. That is it. He doesn't get any in-game reward for it.
That's just the situation they found themselves in now. Of course, this does open up all of the comeback mechanics we can talk about for the Olympus bolts, but where they actually managed to find them can be tough. Now, Silenced is, you know, a little bit worse for wear. Impact's around as well, but the gap is just so massive. We're seeing the solo laner take it on the support, and the support comes out on top. I don't even know who you would be targeting. Like, if you're the bolts right now and you decide to 5-man all in on a target, who is it? Because it probably shouldn't be this Oni Fury while Panviches are in.
I mean, it has to be one of the hunters. It has to be either the AMC or the Ishtar. Olympus Bowl.
They got it.
Do secure an objective. Do they escape with their life, though? This is going to be the big point. Can they live?
Panvich dumps in and already gets one, but it's the one you would have been happy to trade if you are the bolts. Now, running away are all of the members of the bolts. Nice roll from Sega, and decides to back right in front of them. The wall was good, the back not so much, and Sap will get the kill by virtue of the bees. Now it's 2 for Oni Fury. I don't know, is that worth it for the bolts? Is that the win they were looking for?
No, it's not. I mean, it slows them down ever so slightly, but as you see, they've just walked over to take the tier 2 tower anyway. Hedgehog forced to use the Divine Retribution to be able to escape Worst Turtle. I don't think that's going to be enough. He does have his Blink still, might be forced to use that in a second, but Hedgehog is just going to be able to run away here.
Hedgehog's in combat, isn't able to retreat, but does dash on away, and nothing else doing quite yet. I wonder if the Solar Scarabs have recognized that the Fire Giant's available just yet. They're now starting to make their progress on over to it. I don't expect to see any contention coming up from the bolts. They're just so far behind.
I mean, like you mentioned, the Fire Giant's probably posing a bigger threat, so they've got to come out as a coordinated team, whilst in a team fight, they could just run around and kill whoever they want. I mean, Sega's probably next up on the kill list. Iceland is going to be able to root him, and up he goes. Lucky that he's able to do so, but he's able to do so because of that wall.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent wall to keep the damage dealers at bay. Just managed to fly on the way to safety, but it's only supposed safety because Worst Turtle, yet again, taking someone back to the sky after they've already been there. 3 members of the Scarabs in this right lane. This Phoenix likely going down soon.
Yeah, look at the left-hand side. Havage is just chasing down Mpox, meaning they're not going to have their Kepri, no revive available for this Phoenix siege. Minions still need to push up. The minions are so far back on that right. The minions are so far back on this right-hand side. They can't siege into these Phoenixes quite yet.
Well, they choose the mid lane instead. To the option for the still 3 members of the Scarabs up against 3 on the Phoenix. I4 goes into the ultimate to put out some damage, deflect away this enemy team. Nothing gets lifted to the sky with the Astral Barrage, putting out good damage onto Silence, but will not be enough. In the left-hand lane,
still chasing.
Mpox still stuck and completely where they do not want to be. Panvich does them a service and allows them to return to the base by virtue of a grayscale screen. When do we get to the ridiculous? Because we're clearly not far away.
It's not here right now. I mean, that was just
I mean, maybe,
absurd.
yeah.
That was just absurd. I mean, Impox, if he wanted to make it even more ridiculous, could have altered himself just to keep that chase going a little bit longer. But I don't think that's going to happen. At this point, if you're on the Olympus bolts, you are already focused on game 2. You're already talking about what to do differently in the draft, what to do differently in terms of gameplay, what to not give them. Ow, Kwong. Don't give them that again. Yeah, you're just thinking about the second game.
And understandably, right? These games do happen in the game of Smite. Sometimes things just go
Oh
wrong
yeah.
early on. There weren't a lot of mistakes though from the bots. They were just under so much pressure and unfortunately fell a few times too many and just let it get out of hand. But Silence just waltzing on in. Nice wall from Sega, but it's only to delay the inevitable. Ukrom can still fire off from long range. Phoenix is half health. Sega goes to the sky, does dance on the sap. So some good damage coming out, but no kills just yet. Port with nowhere to go. There's the sacrificial lamb at the start of this fight. Now the Phoenix is down. Mid lane Phoenix seems to be the next target. The Bolts can't step up.
No, they're not able to do anything. This is just going through the motions. Once again, Phoenix falls down. Phoenix on the right-hand side could be next up because of the fact that they do have the minions pushing up now. Ooh. But they're going to look to fight instead. Sap, low. Could Sap fall down? Nope, Sap's escaped.
Both ADCs in a tough position there, but Banvich comes in, gets the double stun. Sega can't do any damage to Ikrom, who is full health again. Hammers, but can't get away. Banvich still slicing, but it will just be this right side Phoenix. Olympus Bolts now decide to step up, now that there are less of them, but the Solar Scarabs going to back it up, dot their I's, cross their T's, make sure this game is wrapped up in a nice little bow.
What's most impressive to me about this performance as well is that the Solar Scarabs are doing this against a team of well-known players. I mean, you have a look at the Olympus Bolts. Hedgehog has been around the scene consistently. iPort has been a known mid laner for like probably even a good 3 or 4 years. Yokin, an up-and-coming ADC's always been on the cusp of joining in on the SCC. This isn't a rank amateur team that's come up through the SOC, and this is their first season playing in the big leagues. This is a team of players who've been around the scene for a while.
Yeah, and it always feels good to get that sort of win. You know, when you get a win against a strong team, it's always great. Now, of course, this is just game one. It only really counts if you win both games. You know, as the Bolts are probably discussing game number 2, we could turn our attention to it somewhat as well, as this is a bit of a 99%. There's 2 people trying to take on Panvich and left and won't really have any success. Panvich stops the back yet again. This is a nice little job for Panvich. I'd be quite a big fan of this in my games.
What, just playing as what a bulldog, just sitting in front of your base, stopping anybody from touching your property?
I think there's a role on the Eldritch Hounds coming up for Panvich, because that's what the Hounds do. You know, they just guard the base and bark when someone comes nearby. But the dog should be barking right now for the Bolts, as coming up to the doorway is the Solar Scarabs. It's a matter of when they decide to pull the trigger. Now, as the life of the party coming out from the Silence does get imparts, but it will not be enough to take them down just yet. No minions in the Titan room, as they do now start pouring on in, so the Titan begins to take some damage. Solar Scarabs deflected for just a moment, though.
Yeah, the Solar Scarabs doing something, just waiting to regroup, waiting for a bit more minion pressure. Maybe just waiting for callouts to come up to see if they can get any more kills, but down to half health is the Titan. Dunk from Thor, where is he going to land?
Waiting. It lands on Ikrom, chooses their target, but doesn't manage to get them down. The Titan is falling very low to Panvich and Sap. Unstoppable is worst Turtle, but that will be the game. Solar Scarabs with a shutout victory over the Olympus Bolts. Is there a better way to get your first game of the SEC?
I don't know, no deaths, check. 25-minute game, check. Cleanly throughout, check. No, I don't think there's anything you could have done differently there to make it even sweeter. Maybe end it in 20 minutes rather than 25. But I think that's just about what they could have done better.
Yeah, it was clinical across the board. Didn't give them a sniff. You know, there was no overstep. We were discussing very early on about the potential for, you know, maybe just we have to wait for a mistake from the Solar Scarabs, and it just didn't happen. There were no mistakes, and as you see across the board, 0 in the kill column, 0 in the assists column for the Olympus Bolts. They just had nothing to work with.
Their composition was drafted to be able to pick people off in the early game and maybe weather the storm in the early game fights thanks to the Scarab's blessing, but picking up that Alquang was a genius move by the Solar Scarabs at that point, because they had the execute. It just meant the Olympus Bolts were a little bit more fearful. And then the AMC mid lane pickup was also the turning point there in the draft. Just being able to get pressure in that third lane as well. Olympus Bolts they stood no chance from the draft.
Yeah, no chance from the draft. The pressure was just too high. there were merits to their draft, but it just didn't work out. Maybe it doesn't quite work against this Solar Scarabs team, but we'll have to see what adjustments the Bolts can make, or if this will be a very, very clean 2-0 for the Solar Scarabs in just a few moments, as we'll be taking a very, very short break. All right, we are back bringing you the Solar Scarab show because AJ, I gotta be honest, there wasn't a lot of the Olympus bolts coming through. Maybe the thunderstorm's a little bit delayed. You know, maybe it's off in the distance. We're just waiting for the wind to come pick it up because I need to see something completely different from the Olympus bolts in game number 2.
Yeah, it wasn't the Olympus bolts; it was the static shocks. If you want to say anything about them, because they really didn't appear that game. But there's a chance for them to appear in game number 2. I mean, they've obviously would have taken lessons from that game number 1. No, not what to draft, not what to give them. And I want to see what they do differently in this draft. I want to see what adjustments they make, because that could spell either success or doom and gloom for them again.
Yeah, in particular, we pointed out the Ao Kwong just went a bit nuts. They clearly weren't prepared for the execution. You know, they picked Kepri up in their third slot. Probably felt quite happy with it, but then Ao Kwong in the opposing third slot, and you kind of go, yeah, that god's pretty good here, and really didn't manage to deal with it after that. In fact, on top of that, the Amuzin Carb in the middle lane was really, really disastrous, just putting out too much pressure, and it translated elsewhere across the map. But if you were to pick one major adjustment that the Bolts need to make, though, do you have anything for them?
Maybe just be a little bit more respectful in your positioning against an AMC and an Ao Kwong. I mean, I set up a little bit too much. Maybe that's a little bit of nerves in the first game of this split, but just relax. You guys are here for a reason. You managed to win and prove that you do deserve to be here. So just relax and play your game.
They've earned their spots, they played their game their way, but now let's see if they can draft that little bit better as we head on into picks and bans for game number 2. So previously we saw a lot of focus on those healers being banned away and also Hercules, because Hercules just does Hercules things, but with the adjustments coming through, that'll leave a lot on the table, and as the Bolts, they have the first pick. Maybe they can look for something huge, as we do see the Ao Kwong banned away.
Yeah, this is what you need to do. If you're going to be taking the first pick again, you need to make the adjustment straight away. And the Ao Kwong ban, perfect response to what happened in game number 1. Yes, that will probably give Worsted a little bit of a boosting. Look, they banned my god. I was too much for them this game. Just give me something, I'm feeling it, but that's the sacrifice you're going to have to make when you just have to ban something away.
Yeah, sometimes there's an air of, all right, you got us. What else have you got? Like, it wouldn't surprise me if the other 2 bans here are gods that the Scarabs picked up. I could see you ban away AMC, then you ban away Ishtar, and just say, right, give us something else. You know, what else can you play? But Bolts got their favored Thor pick early on, put it in the solo lane, and it really didn't have the impact they were looking for.
No, I think they had to put it in solo lane, though, because of the fact that Thor against Ao Kwong is just a matchup that Ao Kwong relishes. And yes, the stun does come out, and yes, you can probably lose the damage to a double tap, but a smart Ao Kwong player will wait to use his invisibility to avoid the second part of that double tap damage, rendering Thor's fight useless.
Yeah. If Thor's not getting that burst, doesn't really have a whole lot after that. Of course, not particularly short cooldown, so 1v1 in the jungle would pretty much always go the way of Ao Kwong. But of course, no more Ao Kwong anymore. Means that Thor pick might now find itself in the jungle if they opt to go for it again. And with the Guan Yu banned out, good adjustment from the Bolts, but we'll have to see exactly what they opt to go for now. So the Scarabs, you're leaving a lot on the table. They've decided they're not leaving the Aphrodite up. Martigarus is another pick that was banned out last time. I do wonder what they're going to leave open here.
That's a good point. I mean, of course, is what's going to be taken away. So the Ishtar is left open, the Thor's left open, the Hell has been left open as well, which was banned last game. So that could be a pickup that the Solar Scarabs and the Bolts do look at. And if it's one of 2 people that I see playing it, Impox, I think, is very supportive in this playstyle. So I could see the Hell being a fantastic pickup for it.
Looks like we got Ishtar Hover coming through. I wouldn't be too surprised to see this god picked up. And yes, indeed, comes through. Of course, Ishtar, we know all about Ishtar now, right? Basically been a staple of the competitive scene since she came out. Has great laning phase, does great with the crit build at the moment into the late game. Those Blades of Retribution can absolutely ruin a team fight for an aggressor. So Bolts have got a strong pick. Solar Scarabs have a lot open. They could go for the Hell. There's a few other things. The Thor is still available. I don't know. They have a lot to go with, but I mean, whatever they feel like goes well for them. Even Baron Samedi wouldn't be so bad here.
You could pick him up this early, but I don't think they will do. But it's going to be just straight aggression from the Solar Scarabs. I love this. If you stomp them in game number 1, just go straight on the front foot in game number 2. Demoralize the opposition if possible. Just, go for first blood as soon as possible. That's exactly what the Horus brings.
Perhaps you will learn a lesson.
Very early Hatchman pickup. That is... I'm flabbergasted by that. I honestly did not expect to see a Hatchman at all, given he's, tier 4 hunter right now in the pecking order?
Safety is something that Hatchman has, but Jingwei just sort of does it better. There's a few, the ADC pool is relatively wide at the moment. Actually saw a lot of Heimdall yesterday in the EU SCC, but Fenrir and Maui being hovered out. I think that's exactly how you need to contend with this, right? Horus is going to be in your face, whether it's in the solo lane or the support role, going to cause some chaos everywhere. So bring in some chaos of your own is what the Bolts want to do, and immediately this top 3 from the Bolts for game 2, far stronger than game 1 war.
Yeah, this is already a much, much better draft. Much more cohesive, much more oriented for team fights rather than just straight picking off one person. This is a much better look from the Olympus Bolts here. And Solo Scarabs, they have to be careful that they don't put all their eggs into the demoralize them early basket, because otherwise Bolts can do exactly what happens to them in game number 2.
Well, Amos and Carb coming right back out. Again, showing their hand very early are the Solar Scarabs. Ooh! And that alert means it is time for everyone in the UK to panic. Oh, look, mine's in Welsh. I can't read it. That's great. So we've had our emergency alert from the government.
You've not got it? At all.
Where are you? Where are you actually?
I'm down in...
We've been fooled, bamboozled all this time because everyone is supposed to get that alert.
I don't know how I'm not good. I'm legitimately bamboozled myself. So let it be known that in an emergency in the UK, I have perished.
You will not make it, yeah.
No. Well, it's been fun, everybody.
We will mourn our hypothetical Alpha Jackal death another time because Amazon Carb has come back in. And I love it when you can get a pick like the Muzen, who just went so strongly, get it in the 3rd phase, and ban away any weaknesses it might have. Merlin Agni would stand up well to this god, take them off the table, and just gives this bee free roam around the forest.
I mean, they're looking for pressure in the dual lane. I think they've got that with the Horus. They're looking for pressure in the mid lane. They have that with the AMC almost guaranteed. They banned away 2 good mage picks there. The Thor and Hades response from the Bolts. This has to be a aggressive solo lane pick here for the Bolts. They have to have one lane where they do manage to win.
Sometimes that's all it's about, right? Just getting one part of the map to win, and then you can build from there. Because in the previous game, we saw in the first 2 minutes, there was a first blood in mid lane, and then both the dual lane and the solo lane for the Bolts were pushed under the tier 1 towers and leading away farm. And when you're losing that much, it's just so painful. But someone who doesn't do well when you're losing is Cthulhu, because they do extremely well when your team is winning. Now, this does probably, or almost certainly, send this Horus to the support role, but Cthulhu just brings so much to a team fight, and I think the Scarabs will do fantastically with this god.
This would be surprising. These are definitely hovers. These are definitely production troll hovers.
Don't look at the Anubis. Wow. Don't look at the Anubis.
Oh, okay.
Don't look at the Anubis.
There
we go.
There we go. There it is. Okay. Okay, so Neath Hebo. So that puts Fenrir in the solo lane, most likely. Hebo in the jungle. I love the Neath Hebo jungle combination, mainly because Neath Spirit Arrow stuns somebody from across the map, and then Hebo just blinks in Crushing Wave, they're dead. 2 ults, instant kill. Thank you very much.
Yep. It's so much potential for Neath, right? We don't see a whole lot of Neath. We've seen a little bit towards the start of this season now, where Neath obviously finds themselves in the middle lane, just gives you so much more options with that World Weaver. Susano might absolutely relish the fact that there is a Neath in the middle lane, though, because they'll certainly struggle to get too far away. But see both our drafts coming through. Do you think there's any hope for the Bolts?
I think there is hope. I think they've drafted a much better draft this time round. I think it's a good team fight. They're matching the double hunters up. Hebo is probably one of the best gods for carrying 1 versus 5 as well. He just does so much damage. It is unbelievable. And they had the Fenrir there as well. So I genuinely think that this Bolts draft can compete. Whether they do so or not, it remains to be seen.
Well, we'll have to remain to see in about 3 minutes from now, because that is when it all started to go from bad to worse for the Bolts. But we're heading on in to this game number 2 between the Olympus Bolts and the Solar Scarabs. It all depends on if they can really keep it tight, maybe still have a storm to weather from all the pressure coming out, but that's something's keeping your eye on. I think it might well be the Hebo in the solo lane.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Solo Troll do it, so it's no real surprise to see it go into the solo lane. But I would have thought that the Fenrir against the Cthulhu would have been a slightly better matchup, given that the Fenrir is very aggressive, can punish the lack of sustain from the Cthulhu. But this is, again, the Hebo could do that from distance.
Yeah, Hebo could do it from quite some way, and Cthulhu not the best at pressuring out their opposing solo laner. You tend to find Cthulhu is more than happy to, stand in lane and take a bit of brawling, but not the god that really storms on ahead. Now, Olympus Bolt's going for this alternate start yet again. Are you seeing anything from this? It looks a bit slow to me.
It is a tiny bit slow, but I think everyone is doing it. I mean, look at the Solar Scarabs. They've done the exact same start as well. So what this does is it means that every single camp is cleared off the map straight away, meaning that you get everything up as soon as possible, you're farming as quickly as possible. Inbox has got to dash away there, and it's just started again in that 2 lane, hasn't it? The amount of absurd pressure has begun.
Yeah, like Inbox go below 50% HP. Now that's about a health potion away from healing it all back up, and maybe we'll be okay there. But finally, a lane pressure in favor of the Olympus Bolts as Sega manages to keep Panvich pinned under tower touch. Hedgehog don't quite connect with the stun, gets pulled back in. There's some honey on the ground, no bees to follow up just yet. But more aggression in the mid lane for the Solar Scarabs.
So that is, like you pointed out, a big win here for the Olympus Bolts. That they do have that pressure lane over in that solo lane. Was pretty much always going to happen when you put a mage over there, especially one as powerful as Hebo. Sap down on mana, not going to be hit by the attack speed slow, but we're still taking a fair bit of damage here.
Fair bit of damage, a couple of claw shot swipes come through. Hedgehog, though, can't tend up to both of them. Would like to take the 1v1, but the 1v1 will have to wait for another day. As Worst Turtle takes a bit of a bloody nose and maybe more careful around Hedgehog in the jungle now. But much better start from Olympus Bolts. It's a little bit of pressure and, reasonable strength. But, I mean, they're actually ahead in gold ever so slightly.
Yeah, I think that's just, again, down to the fact that they've managed to farm up a little bit better. Impulse going to get hit by a stun, hit by a knock-up, hit by a slow. CC after CC after CC. Silence might be hit by that as well, but it's just a dash away. That's one of the biggest frustrations of the horrors. The fact that you poke him out, you poke him out, and he just dashes away. Yeah, he's gone. He's out of there. See ya, I'm out. Because somebody's nearby.
Sees a friend, goes, oh, you know what? Don't want to be here anymore. Going to go hang out with them. But Worst Turtle, responding to the aggression from Hedgehog at the gold buff, will then rotate to this right-hand lane. Maybe make an attempt onto Sega, who, once this blue buff is going to drag it all the way back. There's Worst Turtle, gets the pull in. There's the knock-up. And Sega does manage to secure it. Very important in the momentum of this lane, because they've had good strength, and they really want that blue buff in order to continue on putting the pressure on the Panvich.
Yeah, and what Worst Turtle's doing here is absolutely correct. You're one lane that's behind. Go put pressure there. Just try and gank it. It's the Hebo. Yes, he'll probably still come online anyway, but allowing your Cthulhu some time to breathe and farm and put pressure onto him instead, that's what you want to happen.
Yep, did it really well. Of course, made some presence over there, and of course, Impact really low. Has to get away with the solar swing. Doesn't seem to be anything else coming their way, but again, another warning sign. But again, game number 1, it feels like that would have been a kill for the Solar Scarab. So the Bolts, with this better start, are going to be feeling much more comfortable.
Hedgehog level 5 now as well, so don't be surprised to see him look to be active on the map. Could even go in for the horror scan, given that the fact that he's got no beads on him, but Worst Turtle, Sap, and Necrom all still have that relic available to them. Just to try and burn that if they want to have the Fenrir ultimate be effective for them.
Have to see exactly where that first Ragnarok will come from. Maybe they'll target out Worst Turtle, of course, but the Worst Turtle picked up the beads smartly. You don't want to be focused down. And even just the presence of a Fenrir on the map does mean that you have to be a little bit more careful. Can't go for that blink early on in the jungle as you normally would on a Susano. So, yeah, it's paid off a touch, slowed this game down, but I feel like we're in for an extended game, as you should expect from an EU matchup. And both sides really in prime position because no one's going to fall off. In fact, everyone's going to get stronger as this game goes on.
This is what you want to see out of Olympus Bolts in game number 1. Yes, they didn't have a particularly great draft into the Solar Scarabs draft, but now we're seeing exactly what the Olympus Bolts are about, what they can do. They're farming up quite well, and they're able to just, they're able to catch people out unawares. This could be First Blood.
Oh, it's a World Weaver, does a lot of damage, and Worst Turtle very, very low, and the blink from Hedgehog means it will be a First Blood for the Olympus Bolts. Now, descending into Mandas is Panvich. Hedgehog wants out, but Sega wants in. Going to give chase to this very, very tall Demon of Destruction. Will not be able to get it, though, but that's a good win for the Olympus Bolts.
It's what you want. It's what you needed to happen here for the Olympus Bolts. Is just getting that First Blood and calming the nerves. Making sure that you're able to, put your foot, put your stamp, put your mark on this game. You didn't get a kill last game, so you needed to secure the first one this time around.
Yeah, didn't manage to get it, but they get it this time, and immediately that's the monkey off the back, right? We can kill them. They can go down. In particular, Worst Turtle, right? Probably the standout performer, of which there were many. But if you're going to pick down anyone as the major problem, probably would have been that Aokong. So they've taken out the Susano in a matchup where they also lost the Purification Beads, which means any moment, again, Hedgehog can find this Susano in the jungle and try to take them out. It's just such a better spot for the Bolts to be in.
100%. I think the only thing you could say about the First Blood that happened there is that Hedgehog didn't wait for the Typhoon to be fired whilst he was in a CC immunity. I think that's the only thing you could say that could have maybe cost him the kill. But the fact he gets it anyway just means that it's a moot point. Sega still continues the pressure on this right-hand side, giving them a comfortable 1,000 gold lead 6 minutes in.
Very comfortable, very much cleaner, and like we said, the confidence has got to be there now. If there was anyone feeling a bit down from that first game, I'm sure they would have shaken it off. But now that they're really going to be feeling good and might be feeling like they can be the ones stepping up. So Joggin sees 2 in their lane. They do have the presence of Hedgehog to frighten away the 2 lane of the Solar Scarabs. It's passive somewhat from the Bolts and both the Scarabs too. No one's really overly committing. But is there anyone this particularly benefits? Would you say one team is looking for that late game in particular?
I think both teams will be happy if this game goes late. I mean, both of them have double Hunter, so both of them are able to push down objectives quite easily. I'd say probably the team that wants the late game a little bit more would most likely be the Solar Scarabs, mainly because they can get better use out of the Horus to the Skies ultimate.
Of course, yeah, can actually shuffle things up, but Echrome getting on to Jokin, fired out a ton of shots, gets on the car, and will find a clean shot there. That was just a 1v1, despite the presence of Ice Silence, and Sega now in some trouble, has to use the Crushing Wave. Gets knocked up, but does manage to stay safe for now. Solar Scarabs wake up and find one, and almost find a second.
Yeah, that would have been 2 solo kills over on the left and right hand side. Can we just talk about the fact that Echrome was hitting every single auto attack there? Everyone. That is absurd play. There, you don't even see SPL level players hit all their autos against SPL level opposition, mainly because they know how to juke out each other. This is SCC versus SCC, and he's just proving that he is better.
It's always a statement you want to make, right, against your opposing number. Just, I will win this fight if you decide to take it yet again. And I wouldn't even put the matchup particularly in favor of Hachiman. Of course, being able to use the mounted archery to get a homing shot, right? It is a little bit easier to confirm than those Blades of Retribution. But other than that, there's really nothing to suggest that win should go the way of the Hachiman. In fact, a lot of people say that Ishtar's first ability is just better than Hachiman's. It's basically the same thing. One of them's much stronger. That's a purple buff secured for the Scarabs. They've got themselves level pegging on the kills and level pegging in the gold and experience charts. This game is very, very finely poised.
Oh, Impog's going to get caught out once again. You have to use the solar swing to get away from danger. There's something which has just crept up on my screen, as I noticed. Impox has gone in for the Gauntlet of Thebes first. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a brilliant item, gives you 55 of each protection once it's fully stacked. But look at the composition Solar Scarabs have. 4 physicals over, and Sap is going to get caught out of mid lane.
Oh, get the jump! He does manage to get the jump, finds the swipe after the fact. That's the kill you're looking for. Yet again, Purification Beads goes off for one of the Scarabs, but they still fall down to the mouth of Fenrir.
Yeah, that is what you want to see. You get the beads, you get the kill still, and you can just go ahead and do the same combo again in about 90 seconds time. This time, you don't have to worry about the Purification Beads.
Let's see if they go again, but Hedgehog getting stunned out by Ice Silence. But a lot of damage being fired back out. Worst Turtle's in as well, though. Oh, Hedgehog already left in 3-man landfall into a triple solar swing. But that's just the go button for the Solar Scarabs to want to get aggressive. Now, Highport makes the rotation over a little bit too late, though, as a fight this time goes the way of the Solar Scarabs.
You know when Hedgehog was midway through that jump in, he just the "will be right back" meme just started playing. Because he just jumps in the middle of 3 people knowing he's just instantly dead the second he lands. And that, it's unfortunate because I like the fact that he's playing aggressive on this pick. He needs to try and continue the momentum that he's got. Just a poor timing on that aggression.
Turtle with the excellent timing. Echrome with the swoop around. They think that Silenced is alone, but Silenced is not. But Echrome takes way too much tower shots in the process, as does Worst Turtle, as Iport finds the final shot by help of the World Weaver. So that's 2 kills down for the Scarabs. And that means that the Gold Fury is the target of the bolts.
Yeah, this could be a big moment in the game here. Olympus Bolts getting the first Gold Fury, given that they got one last game. They got one last game, but they get the first one this game. And Solar Scarabs, yeah, you're right, overstepped the mark completely. Bit of overconfidence, overexertion on their point. Gonna have to rein that in a little bit. Otherwise, this lead, which is currently at 2,000 gold, could extend to 4,000 in the next few minutes.
Yeah, it only takes a couple of drop kills, and then it's a Pyromancer, and then another kill, and then it's a tower, and all of a sudden the gold just keeps spiking on up. So, fantastic return game here from the bolts, but the box was quite low. Let's leap away. Silence there really wants to get in the face, but Echrome on this Hachiman, no crit online, it's just... You know, it's just not quite working out for them. I think Hachiman may be a bit too slow for the playstyle of this horse.
So I think the Hachiman has been okay in terms of complementing the Horus. They go in for the stun. Echrome dashes in and gets the stun off himself as well, just continues that CC chain. It's just a little bit behind in terms of positioning. I think you're right there. He needs to put himself a little bit more aggressive if Ice Silence wants to be playing this aggressive.
Yeah, you always want to be backed up by your carry when you want out the damage. But they don't sneak away a Pyromancer. Runic Bomb goes in the pocket of Impox, and I mean that's exactly what you're talking about. If the Solar Scarabs aren't careful, this lead will get out of hand pretty quickly. And with a Neith on the table, an Ishtar, and a Fenrir, plus the Hebo that's sitting there in right lane, pretty much untouched by the Scarabs, Olympus Bolts are pretty much at their prime right now.
Yeah, this is where I'll just maybe even rotate Sega out for a team fight. Just try and push something down. Unfortunately, they can't do that right now because there's nothing to fight over apart from the Fire Giant. If you're going for a 30-minute Fire Giant only about 3k up, you're a madman. You're just straight up insane. You're throwing in the game at that point. So they got to wait for some of these objectives to respawn. Oh, across the skies. Oh no, this is bad news for the Hebo.
Sega might finally find themselves in trouble. There's a crushing wave to get them to about as safe as they could. Blink comes out from Worst Hill. Nice knock-up, and the World Weaver comes through. Echrome dies in the meantime, and Impox is here for the peel. Highport there to provide a little bit of assistance. That's a failed attempt on the right, as it's a successful attempt on the left for the bolts.
And they invested so much as well. Descent into Madness was used. They used a Typhoon. They used it into the skies. Echrome died over on that left-hand side, even with using his mounted archery. It just come up all Olympus Bolts there. And 2 things saved Sega's life there. Doom Orb and Blink.
The 2 go hand in hand, right? Zoomies around the map. And, I mean, Hebo loves that crushing wave, the river that he can send out with the scroll that just makes you move even faster. everything went in favor there. And I don't really know how Sega knew. Maybe it was because Panvich is running away on the tower like you know, a scared puppy, and then all of a sudden found their bark. And Sega just realized, hold on a second, this is not how you've been playing, and smelled that one out fantastically well. And yeah, you need those alert level senses if you're going to avoid a heavily committed gank like that.
Is there a ward on the Pyromancer, I wonder? I can see one just above it. So maybe they walked over a ward, and that's what tipped him off that the rotation was coming?
Yeah.
Maybe again was a call from the mid lane that just saw so many people shuffle into the right-hand side that he just has to get out. But I don't know. Maybe that was definitely just... He sensed it, maybe. Sometimes you do just have that sense.
Sometimes you just know. And especially when you're picking Hebo in the solo lane, you have to expect something like that to come your way. But Worst Turtle's attempted to gank the Hebo on his own and not succeeded. So attempts to bring the boys, and the boys can't succeed it. So I don't know. I feel like this Hebo in the solo lane is maybe a bit more of a tech pick than we thought. Just, you know, notoriously unsafe god in the middle lane is finding their home in the solo lane.
Yeah, finding a home in the solo lane and in the jungle as well. Both have their merits. Solo lane, you're fighting against someone who's not going full damage. Panvich is just eating a little bit of poke there again from Sega. In the jungle, you don't have a lane. You're just roaming around, so it's difficult to gank you. Worst Turtle fighting Hedgehog in the jungle, taking so much damage.
Lepton in, and there's the Ragnarok to finish them off. Eco fires out their shots in response as there goes across the sky. Ice Silence coming in now. Hedgehog's on the retreat. Inbox and Yok in there to provide some backup. He gets out. The solo Scarabs get nothing. Another kill in the favor of the Bolts, and this lead is the 4K mark that you said was coming.
Yeah, it just was creeping up on them. And again, Hedgehog playing the aggressive role goes in. Hey, iPod's ultimate gets interrupted, and they still go in and get the kill. So I don't know who it hit. It may have hit Sap at some point, although he's back up to full health now. Maybe hit Ice Silence at some point on the way. But whoever it hit almost messed up the play for Olympus Bolstep, but he still got away with the kill.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need the confidence, right? I'm not sure Hedgehog goes for that if iPort doesn't use the World Weaver as well, but...
Oh, yeah.
If iPort calls, hey, I'm ulting him, you go for it. Hold on! Hedgehog caught in place, stopped in place, nowhere to go whatsoever, and they end up stuck under that tower, take the extra shots. Sap now gets a nice kill there. Now, this isn't game one. It's not the only kill for the solo Scarabs, but sometimes you need a kill like that just to shift the momentum.
Yeah, gets hit by the stinger underneath the tower, unable to move around with his abilities at that point, so no longer has the Unchained or the Brutalize, and it's just stuck there being wailed on by an AMC who's doing absurd amounts of damage. That is, not the position he wants to be in. We've just seen his praises before about his aggression and going in and getting out. That was not the time to go in. The time to just calm down and wait for your team to rotate in to take an objective.
Stinger, of course, fantastically effective against Daimos and Carb. It's one of those matchups, right, where Fenrir is a great pick into Muzen. Muzen's also a pretty decent pick into Fenrir, you know, that can stand up, and you know, if you see a Fenrir coming, you can blast them with so much damage. The honey, the bees, the stinger, to of course apply a cripple as well. And on top of that, it just does a ton of damage, and Fenrir's very easy to hit while he's brutalizing your own face. So it's pretty good, pair of picks to square up on against each other, but this time Sap comes out on top.
Well, unfortunately for Hedgehog, that is the second death there, so that is going to be a little bit of a nuisance for him. 4 kills now for Solo Scarabs, 2 players have fallen down. Impox do what he can to just stop Ice Silence from warning up on the Gold Fury. That time it's the only Fury that's over there for them. So that is where the next point of contention most likely will be, over on this left-hand side at that Oni Fury.
Yeah, everyone, a lot of people would consider the Oni Fury to be the most valuable of the Furies. Doesn't give you as much gold, but the effect it produces is just so good. And whoa, there's a stinger coming out from Sap. I don't know if iPort smelled that one out or was just planning on backflipping anyway. But, of course, not being able to pick up that stinger, I mean, that's on cooldown for quite some time. In particular, quite some time where Hedgehog is now free to roam on the map again.
Well, as we've seen, Olympus bolts are grouping up on this left-hand side. They may be looking for the shield buff, looking for a kill around the corner. Could be a little bit of both. Shield buff does go down the way of the blue team, and Hedgehog is going to pick that one right up. I like this. I like giving it to the jungler who's been jumping in and is going to be eating a face full of damage. Wants to go with the E-Chrome, but spelling that one off and backing off thanks to that ward over there.
Yeah, well, there's clear aggression from both sides. Looks like Solar Scarabs have decided they are willing to fight over this objective. They are grouping up, matching the numbers of the opposition. It's just the Solar Laners hanging out over on the right-hand side. With actually Panovich no ultimate means they
left-hand side.
Oh, there's Port firing the World Weaver across the map. And there is the Brutalize tracking all the way through that mounted archery. It's one of the few gods that can track through an ultimate, and Hedgehog gets the reward for that pick.
He didn't stand a chance there, did he?
Nope, not at all.
I mean, the only thing he could have done is Aegis something. Oh, Olympus bolts, they do secure it. We're still almost threatening to steal there. The only chance he has is if he uses Aegis on that Neath ultimate and on some of the Fenrir damage. But then he might just still die anyway, I think.
Yeah, it would be tough when Yokin, whoa, picked up. But, Worst Turtle has to dash on away. It doesn't feel like they can put out enough damage to take down this Ishtar, and the picks are just not rolling for the Solar Scarabs. They, again, down about 4k gold. Only minions now pouring up through some waves. It's only really the Solar Lane Tower under threat, but the momentum is so in favor of the Bolts, and again, so happy for them based on how game number 1 went. You always want to see a team turn it around. Yeah,
I mean, even if they don't end up winning this game, this is a big confidence boost for them. The fact that they capitulated in game number 1. Let's be honest, it was just a blowout. But this game number 2 shows the fight back, shows that they are 100% deserving and worthy of being here, even if they didn't have to qualify for this, which they did. Don't forget, every single team had to play through a qualification tournament to be able to have the right to play in this SEC. And there will be relegations as well, and SAP is being relegated to death. No? Good Aegis.
Yeah, there's the Aegis, and gets the ult out from Silenced, and managing to get the Stinger out from SAP. So, again, just not clicking for the Scarabs. I think it should have been happy enough there, SAP, to use the Aegis, walk back into tower, and everyone could sort of go back to their regularly scheduled positions, right? Everyone knows, all right, that's enough, but Silenced once to gets back in. Doesn't feel maybe that they've had the impact they would have liked on this Horus, because you mentioned earlier, Horus wants to get in the face early, and while Silence has tried, it just hasn't quite paid off yet.
Solar Scarabs. I don't know what needs to change. I mean, that's a good changing point. Getting a good kill over on his left-hand side. That is a great start. Could even push down the tier 2 tower here, but that leaves you wide open for a 3v5 over on this right-hand side.
It's all about the Pyromancer. Pulling it are the Olympus bolts, and zoning are some more members, but the aggression comes in. There's Sega, doesn't connect with the damage yet. There's a tidal surge, doesn't quite insta-kill SAP, but the rest of the Hebo ultimates will, and that is the B out of this fight. Now Sega in a lot of danger and does fall down for their troubles.
Oh,
this
look at the
loop
rotations.
Coming out in from Worst Turtle, catches Inbox. The first target on E-Chrome, but Hedgehog is the bigger fish. Worst Turtle will snap that one up. It's just Impox over here will manage to survive, but that's finally a big fight going the way of the Scarabs.
They did what they needed to do, just go over on the left-hand side, get a kill. But then, I don't know if it was a mistake by the Olympus Bolts to go and engage that hard onto SAP. They've done so well so far by letting the CC be what needs to be for the kill. And look at that draft. That is just pure dip right there. That is comeback mechanics. 100% the comeback mechanics. Just one fight, that's all that was needed.
Yeah, they take the fight, take the objective. 94 gold is the difference. Now, the experience goes in favor of the Olympus Bolts. It won't be too relevant in a while, as, of course, we do have some level 20s. It's only 2 at the moment, but even the support for the Solar Scarabs, Silence, I've noticed this throughout this game has been keeping up in levels with Yokin on the Ishtar. It's not quite what you'd expect. What has this Horus been doing to be level 18 at 22 minutes?
Just been next to everybody where possible, even just going off and getting some solo farm on his own, maybe. But he's just been stuck to people like glue. I don't think there's been a single moment where he's got a single bit of farm by himself. He's been always around Worst Turtle, always around Sap in the mid lane. Sometimes been around Chrome in the dual lane. He's been everywhere where the farm's been.
Well, this Horus then will be a big threat. Of course, already has the Sentinel's Embrace fully upgraded, so everyone around them will be quite safe. Nice tower tick there for the bolts. It's the first one they've managed to get in this entire set. So again, another small win for them. But Solar Scarabs seem to be out for blood here. They've rotated Echrome to the mid lane, and they want to get aggressive.
Yeah, Silence going in. Port, you have to use the Aegis. Gets knocked up there as well. Body blocks are very good there. That is disrespectful.
Absolutely disrespectful. And now they're just going to fly on away over to this major objective despite the fight coming through.
Oh!
But, wow, a massive landfall pulls them right out of across the skies. Solar Scarabs thought they were doing something clever, and Olympus Bolts punished them for it.
You can't do that in front of a Maui. You can't just stand still and say, hey, I hope you don't have your ultimate up. Yeah, he keeps getting punished and Sega with a clean double kill. What were they thinking there?
I don't know. I think, again, confidence coming through from the Scarabs. It looked like the disrespect of the body blocks was really good for them, but you still have to respect everyone else who's still alive on the map. Now, the Fire Giant pulled by the Olympus Bolts. It is just Silenced and Panvich nearby, but it can cause some disruption because the Sender Madness comes through. The Fire Giant's low. The Runic Bomb will secure it for the Olympus Bolts. Now Hedgehog wants to get in, sees Silence low, picks them up, carries them away, and dunks down on top of them. And it looks like the Bolts will get Fire Giant on 5 and retreat with all members alive.
It looked to be swinging away at the Solar Scarabs after that fight over on the Pyromancer, but what an impact that landfall had from Impox, and then Sega just cleaning up with that crushing wave for the double kill before they could even land. The wombo combo proves deadly, and Olympus Bolts thoroughly rewarded with the Fire Giant on 5.
Yeah, it was a fantastic combination. It's not something I've seen too much of, but Blink now onto iPort, but worse turtle. That's a Fire Giant team. You can't be diving just like that, and well, there's a split push going on right. The Olympus Bolts pushing up the left as a full-on unit. Solar Scarabs need to be careful they don't bleed too much away.
Yeah, Echrome doing what he can to try and get his team some semblance of team gold back on terms. Goes over to that right-hand side, pushes down a tier 2 tower. Nobody's backing just yet. Is he going to push? He's going to try and push for a Phoenix here.
Attempt it. I wonder what the response is going to be like. Nobody backing just yet because there's a fight in mid. Now Sap does fall to Yokin. Sega will just about survive through Ice Silence. And unfortunately for the Solar Scarabs, Echrome has had to retreat back because it's going from bad to worse. Silence lifted up. World Weaver doesn't even connect. They're pushing 2 lanes at once and getting success everywhere.
Playing a very good game of fetch there as Hedgehog, and Echrome catches Sega out the jungle unopposed. Going to be able to pick off 1 member. That's 1 down, 4 to go for the Fire Giant members of Olympus Bolts. But Phoenix defense is good. Left-hand side, tier 2 falls down as well. Gets even more gold on the side of the Olympus Bolts. It feels like the momentum shift in this set has fully happened. Like, the Olympus Bolts, they're the ones feeling on top. They're the ones feeling good about themselves. It just shows what you can do with a good draft. It shows how important the drafting phase is.
Yeah, when you've got a draft that isn't isn't too complex. That their pick comp, not that getting picks is particularly difficult, but you have to actually pull it off. If you are just farming, you will naturally fall behind with that sort of pick because the other team's just a bit better at it than you. And when you're playing against players who are no slouches, the Solar Scarabs, they also had to qualify. They are more than capable of recognizing a pick composition when it comes in and played around it beautifully. But this time, Bolts have chimed together and really had a good mid-game draft that, I mean, had spiked all together at the same time, and it's really paying off for them.
Pyromancer taken, but the bomb still isn't taken. The ultimate being charged to World Weaver. Not going to be fired off there by iPort. Just waiting around, looking for a better opportunity to engage a fight here. It would have been a bit criminal for them to do so, considering Sega is still over on the left-hand side a little bit. So it needs to wait to be a full versus 5.
Yeah, they want to be grouped up at this fire. They've got some decent ward coverage due to the Solar Scarabs. So the territory advantage is theirs. The gold advantage is certainly in favor of the Bolts. But, I mean, look at the way that all these teams are playing. Bolts are backing off. They are resetting slowly, whereas the Solar Scarabs are clearly on the hunt for someone stepping up.
All of them,
and then they all recall.
They're all recalling. I mean, this is the time you need to recall. This is the last chance. The bell's been rung at the bar at this point. If you want to be on time for Fire Giant, you need to back now to pay for your items. Exactly. Go get your last items before this fight.
Well, they're all coming back, converging to this Fire Giant. Now, Hedgehog way off on the left-hand side, and Sega looking to engage onto Sap Worldweaver. Does a ton of damage, but Sega has to use the Crushing Wave defensively to get on back out. Now, we do still see Hedgehog on the left-hand side, means that if they will have to force Panvich back. This is a chess match of positioning, sliding all over the place. I wonder who's going to engage first.
We saw a little bit of engagement already from iPod and Sega. 2 ultimates used by the Olympus Bolts. I wouldn't be surprised if they just wait until both of them are back up before looking to engage again.
I would have thought that Hedgehog was planning on rotating back to the fight now that they'd forced Panvich back, but instead sticking around, wants to take the one-on-one against Cthulhu. I'm not sure how successful that's going to really be. And it's sort of stalling this game out a bit, because right now the 4-on-4 going in favor of anyone, but the Solar Scarabs pull the objective, still fire it down. Of course, do have the double hunter, and do think they can burn it quickly.
I mean, it's very weird to me that Hedgehog is the one that's being the one that's pushed, but hold that thought as Impox has been blasted with some damage here.
Blasted with damage, flies up into the sky and gets taken down by the Typhoon coming out. Now, advantage Solar Scarabs. They have the positioning, they have the man advantage, they have Panvich on scene. This Fire Giant goes down quickly. And Sega get on in, Panvich creating some space. There's the Ascend to Madness. I think that's the retreat from the Olympus Bolts.
Mid Phoenix is going to fall down in consolation prize for the Olympus Bolts. We're going to play everything good so far in this game. From the Olympus Bolts has gone through Hedgehog, teleport in from across the skies, but nothing do. But he's the one that's away from the team. He's the one that's split pushing. He's the one that's trying to get the objectives. Yeah. That is... It just seems like a bit of a misplay for me for the entire team to send off the momentum player away from the fights.
Yeah, split pushing seems to be something that a lot of teams are doing in the EUSCC this week, but... Well, okay, Hedgehog has gotten a mid-Phoenix, and that is a Fire Giant that is not enhanced, of course. We're just now ticking over to the 30-minute mark, but... The Bolts, like you said, they've had all the momentum through Hedgehog. I know Fenrir can struggle to get picks, but... surely you've got to fight as a full fight.
Yeah, surely you've got to have your best engage tool once some beats have been forced in the fight.
Yeah.
Instead, he's been split pushing. Yes, he gets a Phoenix very successfully, and we have to hold hands up and say congratulations, well done. That is a good thing for the team. But now you're faced with the full fury of the Solar Scarabs with Fire Giant. They're going to be running down, and this mid Phoenix is top of their list.
Well, of course, we will at best neutralize Phoenixes. Wow, what just hit Echrome? That was a tower shot, a knock-up from Sega, and a ton of damage in the process. So, happy to stand tall at this tier 2 of the Olympus Bolts, and why not? You've had a decent gold lead, you've had some good fights. Alright, it's Fire Giant on 5, but it is not enhanced, and Hedgehog still wants this pick on Worst Turtle, but Worst Turtle fully aware of the situation. Now the ball comes in, Brutalize comes up, there's the Worldweaver, and the chomp from Ragnarok will finish off Hedgehog. Now what does the fight look like afterwards? Echrome can close the distance, gets a few shots, but not enough. And that's the first pick from the Fire Giant going off the board for the Solar Scarabs.
1 down, 4 to go, and the fight's going to rage on here. Sappy can get on the backline. He's super low, and he's gone. Nightport credited with the kill.
Picks up Sap Panvich all alone, just fired shots into the back of this very large target. Panvich goes down, double kill for iPort. Mid lane Phoenix is open. I think they're just running through the front door.
They might as well at this point. Isonis and Chrome are the only 2 up, and who's next on the respawn timer? Worst Turtle at 23 seconds. I generally think you're right. They can just walk through and end this game. Not too much expended in terms of ultimates. I mean, look at the diamonds on that left-hand side. Yeah. Hedgehog and iPort, they're coming back up very shortly. Didn't even need to use Crushing Wave. Minis are pushed in now. A few more just going to be joining them in a second. 6 seconds on Turtle, and that's going to be the respawn timer I think they're worried about.
Well, they're looking to burn it. They're trying to put out all their damage, but it's not going down very quickly. Half HP is the Titan, but Yokin is no HP. Hedgehog and the rest of the team. Sega finally shows up, and it's a triple kill for Worst Turtle. It's a double kill for Echrome. It's a deicide for the Solar Scarabs. And they've got 50 seconds to pick a lane and run it down into the Titan room. I don't believe it.
get your exclamation mark Hail Marys in the chat because, oh, what a throw that is. They had the opportunity. They could have taken Phoenixes. They could have taken, the tower instead. But instead, they go for the end. And now it's all going to be punished. Solar Scarabs group up. They push down. Teleporting in is Panovich. He's already attacking the Phoenix. They know what they want. Get one of them. Get down. 20 seconds on Inbox. And I think with a full 5-strong double hunter squad, this is going to be it.
If it wasn't for the double hunter, I'd say they don't really have the time, but they still have 10 seconds on just the Maui to come on up. There's only one tier 2 tower. The Titan is burning too fast. That will be that. The Solar Scarabs breathe it in. They take all the aggression. They struggle through this game, but after some time, a big overcommitment, unfortunately, for the Olympus Bolts. They had it in their hands, they dropped it, and the Solar Scarabs recognized it and punished them for it.
I feel for the Olympus Bolts there. I mean, that was
really badly, yeah.
Heartbreaking, almost gut-wrenching to see them come so close to taking that game, and then just lose it all off an errant end call there. But you have to give it to the Solar Scarabs. They recognize the opportunity to just push down and end the game at that point, and they take it.
Sega, of course, only showed up to that fight right as everyone died. I feel like the Hebo was putting out a lot of damage and really would have been probably the difference maker there. There was only one person in the base, too. It looked like a good end call. I still think it could have been, but yeah, you look at the scoreboard, you see everything looks in favor of the Olympus Bolts, but Scarabs don't go down. Scarabs tough to beat squad, it seems, and well, they'll be moving through this first week with a 2-0 victory. I think we've had 3 2-0s in the EUSCC this week, so everyone looking, well, half the team's looking really good. The other half maybe have some soul searching to do.
I mean, I don't think it was even the half the teams looking some soul searching. I think Olympus Bolts, they did the soul searching during this set.
That's true. Yeah,
they improved massively from game number 1 and game number 2. Very unfortunate to come out on the losing side, but that is the way things are. I think a more experienced team would have held off and probably taken a Phoenix, maybe taken the tower on that right-hand side, just play a little bit slower. But this team tried to go for the glory play, and they just came up short for it, unfortunately.
Came up a little bit short, but there is always next week. There's the beauty of the SEC. There's more games to come. This is just the first week. You can make mistakes, and it will not impact your entire season. But due to that result, AJ, that is it for us today. On the EUSCC, we saw one hell of a stomp and then one real fight back, but it is 2-0 for the Solar Scarabs. But there is plenty more action to come today. We still have the final day of week 1 of the SPL. Plenty more games to come. And then the NASCC following on after that. But I've been Judas Priestley, joined by Alpha Jackal here. Of course, we've had Phoenix and Raptor providing us production and the observing today. It's been a great showing from us, but there's still plenty more action. Do not go anywhere as the SPL comes up next.